How's it going, guys? My name is Matt Rawlings. I'm 24 years old, and I'm just about the most passionate sports fan you would ever meet. I love it. I consume it on a just daily, hourly basis. I'm all about it. And so, the thing in the sports world that geeks me out the most is college sports. I'm a diehard Oregon fan. I've been an Oregon fan my whole life, and I just love it. So, with the round of 64 coming up on Thursday, I'm just pumped. I'm super pumped, okay? And there are a few main things I want to talk about. First of all, Oregon being a 1 seed, okay? It's huge. It's absolutely huge. It's huge for the school. It's huge for recruiting. And to me, as a Duck fan, as a guy that's watched every single game the Ducks have played this year, to me, we ended up in the best case scenario. Okay? Let me explain. Going into Selection Sunday, I thought we would probably get a 2 seed. Okay? I really wanted a 1 seed. I thought we deserved a 1 seed, but I imagined us getting a 2 seed. And I was okay with that because we have proven all year that we play really well when we have something to prove, when we have a chip on our shoulder, whether it be winning at McHale back in January against Arizona, or just absolutely brutalizing Utah, who was the 12th ranked team in the country, beating them by 30 points. We have proven all year that, hey, when we have a chip on our shoulder, when we feel like we have something to prove, we go out and play better. When we get complacent with where we're at, when we start sipping the Kool-Aid, we're very vulnerable. Take the Bay Area trip where we lose to 20 by Cal and then lose to a very, very mediocre Stanford team. So we ended up getting a 1 seed, which was great. Okay, it's awesome. But it's also good because people are not happy about it. People are not happy with the selection committee. Everyone is saying Oregon doesn't deserve a 1 seed. They're the 7th best team in this tournament. There's no way. And you think our guys don't pay attention to that? So realize getting the 1 seed, but still feeling like we have something to prove is huge. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit biased, okay? But to me, Oregon absolutely deserved a 1 seed for a couple reasons. One, if you look at just their body of work, okay? Everyone knew going into Selection Sunday that North Carolina and Kansas were shoo-ins for 1 seeds. And so the 3 that we didn't know about was Virginia, Michigan State, and Oregon. And out of those 3, Oregon had the most wins against the top 25. Oregon had the most wins out of the top 50. Oregon had the best RPI and the best strength of schedule. To me, that was a no-brainer. But lots of times, the Pac-12 being on the West Coast, it gets overlooked. The other thing to me is Oregon just passed the eye test. I feel like it was huge for the committee to see us just trouncing a Utah team who was one of the hottest teams in the country, won 9 in a row, placed second in conference in the Pac-12, which was arguably the best conference top to bottom in the country. I mean, we got 7 teams in the tournament. And to beat them by 31 was huge. Now, realize this. We match up very, very well with Utah. Okay, Utah they're really strong in the half court. Okay, they like to slow the pace down. They like to feed Jakob Poeltl, who was the player of the year. But the thing is, our guards are so much more athletic than Utah's guards. And so we just bothered them all night. Yes, Poeltl still put up some stats, but realize with guys like Chris Boucher and Jordan Bell, who are incredible shot blockers, and then a guy like Chris Boucher, where that guy is second in the country in block shots, but then he can stretch you out and hit a 3. I mean, he is one of the most unique players the NCAA has ever seen in the last 15 years. And Jakob Poeltl can't handle that on the defensive side. And so what I also thought it was most important for the committee to see was that Oregon can hurt you in so many different ways, okay? We have arguably 5 guys that could go be our leading scorer on any given night, okay? Some nights it's Dylan Brooks. Most consistently it's been Dylan Brooks. But holy cow, Tyler Dorsey looked like a lottery pick on Saturday night. He basically did whatever he wanted and just really showed off the full arsenal of his individual offensive abilities. Elgin Cook, senior leader. His development over the last 3 years has been unbelievable. 2 years ago, the guy could barely make a free throw, and now he's first team all conference. Dwayne Benjamin can come off the bench and drop 20 on you. So we have it from so many different areas. Chris Boucher can go get 25, 10, and 5 blocks on you. So we can hurt you in so many different ways. And so for the committee to see that the night before and just beat the number 12 team in the country, just absolutely have our way with them, that was really something for them to see. Because what is important to them is who's playing well right now. Now, some of the criticisms of Oregon's resume, and no doubt these are somewhat viable, was some of the losses they've had. Like they lost at Boise State, they lost at UNLV, they lost to Stanford, they lost to Colorado. Okay, I get that, but here's the thing. Colorado, NCAA tournament team, they're in 8th seed. That's not a bad loss, okay? UNLV and Boise State, yes, those are games we shouldn't be losing. However, they were games that were in November and December, and we didn't have Tyler Dorsey, okay? You look at Michigan State, they lost to Nebraska at home, okay? Nebraska is awful. Nebraska is one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, where the Big Ten, very top heavy, but not a solid complete conference. So, I love that Oregon's a 1 seed, and I love our chances. Here's the thing. Do I think we're going to win a national championship? No. I mean, do we have a realistic chance? Yes. Okay, do I think we're going to make the Final Four? It's a huge possibility, okay? It depends on how we're playing. But the thing that's most exciting about this NCAA tournament is the parity is unbelievable, okay? You look at last year where teams like Wisconsin, Kentucky, and Duke were so much better than everyone else in college basketball. The NBA talent on those teams was ridiculous. This year, everyone is vulnerable, okay? People are preaching about North Carolina and Kansas, okay? And rightfully so. North Carolina is the most talented team in the country, okay? However, their perimeter game is awful, okay? They don't have a guy who can consistently make a jumper. So if you have decent post play and shut down Bryce Johnson, who, just saying, should be a top 3 pick in next year's NBA draft, okay, one of the most talented kids in the nation, they really struggle. I mean, that loss at home against Duke earlier in February, was embarrassing, okay? Duke was only really playing with 6 guys, and Roy Williams not feeding Bryce Johnson the last 10 minutes of the game, I will never understand that. So, North Carolina, very vulnerable, okay? Kansas, probably the best team in the country. They're the overall number 1 seed. And to me, they're my favorite to go win it all because, kind of like Oregon, they can hurt you in so many different ways. And they have 4 or 5 guys that could go get 20, 25 points on you every night. The thing is with Kansas is they don't have very strong post play. They really don't. So if you have a big guy that can score on the inside and be a shot blocker, be a body, Kansas doesn't always deal with that great. The last thing I want to say about Oregon is I feel like we got a pretty favorable region, okay? Realize that Oklahoma, who's the 2 seed on our region, besides Buddy Hield, they don't have a lot of other options, okay? And they've really been slipping down the stretch. Now, the Big 12 is one of the strongest conferences in the country. I mean, Baylor, Kansas, Iowa State, even you could even throw Texas in there, and West Virginia. But to me, they have just really slipped, and Buddy Hield has, even though he's the player of the year in my estimation, he has really slipped in performance. I mean, that last game in the Big 12 tournament, he had 6 points. He was 1 for 9 from the field. Okay? So, Oklahoma, very, very beatable team for the Ducks. Okay? The other team that a lot of experts are picking to come out of that region and go to the Final Four is Texas A&M, who is a 3 seed. Now, Texas A&M, very physical, have some NBA talent on the roster, but I'm sorry, watching the SEC, that is not a strong conference. That really isn't, okay? Besides Kentucky and Texas A&M, there's not a lot to offer, okay? And which really, coming into Ben Simmons and LSU, there's no excuse for how bad that they were with the best player in the country, because the SEC is really, really a poor conference. So, not to take away from Texas A&M, but I just feel like from Oregon's perspective, our guard play is much more dynamic than theirs, and I feel like that's a favorable matchup. Now, in recent years, the NCAA committee has come under a lot of heat, none more than this year, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. I will be honest with you. I might not have the exact reasons as other people do, though. Let's look at the 1 seeds. Okay, North Carolina and Kansas. No one's going to argue with that. To me, Michigan State should have definitely replaced Virginia as a 1 seed. Virginia has 7 losses, okay? They almost lost to a Wake Forest team. They needed a miracle 3-point shot, and they were completely healthy. Wake Forest, and realize I love Danny Manning, the new head coach there, but they are a long ways away. That is a very, very poor basketball team, okay? The other thing that the committee did was they valued teams that won their conference and won their conference tournament, like an Oregon, okay? Winning their regular season outright and then winning their conference tournament. Virginia didn't win anything, okay? They did not win the ACC, and they did not win the ACC tournament, okay? So I just really struggle, and that could arguably be the one knock on Michigan State, was where, look, you had an Indiana team who really struggled at the start of the year, come back and win the Big Ten. Now realize I like Indiana in this conference tournament. Yogi Ferrell, who their Indiana's point guard, who seems like he's been in school for about 20 years, incredible senior leader, unbelievable shot maker, great. He does a great job penetrating and getting to the dish, and that second round matchup of Indiana and Kentucky will be very, very intriguing. That's probably the best second round matchup there will be if both teams will advance. So, but the thing is with Michigan State, I don't really think they care that they're not a 1 seed, because in actuality, there's just really not that big of a difference. I still have them going to the Final Four. My biggest problem with the committee was, like many, how they handled bubble teams. Okay? Now, if you want to put teams like Syracuse and Michigan in, okay, or same with Vanderbilt, if you want to give the teams from power conferences the benefit of the doubt, I'm okay with that. I really am. My biggest problem with the selection committee is last year at this time, they were on CBS, and what they said is what they were looking for out of mid-majors was to go play great teams during your out-of-conference schedule, okay? Go on the road. Prove to us that you're deserving. And guess what? Teams did that, okay? Monmouth, out of all their non-conference games, they played 1 at home, okay? They beat UCLA. They beat USC, who's in the tournament. They beat Notre Dame, who's a 6th seed in the tournament. And they beat Georgetown, okay? Georgetown and UCLA were on the road. USC and Notre Dame were in a Christmas tournament. But still, and realize people are going to say, "Oh, UCLA is having a down year. That's not that great of a win." Winning in Pauley is hard. I'm sorry. Okay, UCLA beat Arizona and Kentucky in Pauley Pavilion this year. So I'm sorry. That's a great win for a team like Monmouth. Okay. You look at Valpo, another mid-major team that didn't win their conference tournament. They go to Oregon and give Oregon everything that they can handle. Okay, Dylan Brooks had to have a career game for us to escape that win, or to come away with that win. Excuse me. Couple days later, they go to Oregon State, who's a 7 seed, and they're winning by double figures the entire game. They ended up winning by, I think it was 7 or 8 points, but still, they thoroughly beat a pretty quality OSU team. So for the committee to come out and say that last year and not honor that, I just have a real problem with that. Okay, you look at a team like Syracuse. Syracuse lost to St. John's. I don't know how much St. John's basketball you've watched. Okay, Chris Mullen, the new head coach, I feel like he could rebuild that team, but that is a horrible, horrible basketball team. They lost to Incarnate Word earlier in the season by 20. Okay, that is not a good basketball team. Syracuse lost 5 out of their last 6. Vanderbilt, playing in a terrible conference. They play Tennessee early in their conference tourney. Tennessee isn't even healthy, and they can't come out with a win, and you put them in the tournament? You've got to be kidding me. Tulsa, similar to Joe Lunardi, I will never understand how Tulsa was in the tournament. Like that literally makes zero sense to me. I mean, they lost to Memphis by 20 plus, and Memphis was barely playing 500 basketball in the American Conference. And just, I'm sorry, Tulsa fans, I'm sorry, but I will never understand what the committee was thinking on that. So, back to my point, if the committee wants to favor teams from power conferences, that's okay. But say that you're doing it. Don't come out here and say, "Oh, we want the small schools, we want the mid-majors to schedule hard non-conference games," because teams are doing that and you still didn't respect that. That was my biggest problem with the committee. Okay? Now, while we're still talking about, college basketball, and as a huge Pac-12 basketball fan, I've got to give tons of props to Wayne Tinkle and Oregon State, okay? People around the country don't realize what that man has done for that program, okay? 2 years ago at this time, I was at a CBI game that was at Gill Coliseum at Oregon State. It was Craig Robinson's last game, and I'm telling you, there was about 900 people in the stands. It was ugly. And Oregon State just put on an awful performance, lost to an awful team. Like, it was terrible. Last year, Wayne Tinkle comes in with basically zero talent, okay? He's dealing with only 6 scholarship players. And to beat Arizona at home, okay, who was number 3 at the country at the time, and have a winning record was unbelievable. And then to come back this year and make it to the tournament for the first time in 26 years, the 2 head coaches in the state of Oregon, in Wayne Tinkle and Dana Altman, forget them being 2 of the best coaches in the conference. They are 2 of the best coaches and basketball minds in the country, okay? So, and honestly, if Wayne Tinkle's son, Trace Tinkle, wasn't injured, I would pick them to beat VCU, and then they would have a shot against Oklahoma making a Sweet 16 run. It sucks for that team that, one of their best players is injured, but Pac-12 fans, watch out for Oregon State. If Wayne Tinkle is able to do this with limited talent, who knows what can happen? Kind of like Dana Altman with Oregon. When Dana Altman took over, Ernie Kent had really sent that program into the pits. I mean, they were 2008-2009 season, we were 2-16 in conference play. We hadn't had a winning record since 2007. So Dana takes over in 2010-2011, and then we go 21-18. Next year we head to the NIT. Next year we head to the Sweet 16. And that's why one of the reasons I'm so high on Oregon is because he actually has NBA talent for the first time since Oregon has NBA talent for the first time since the 06-07 season with Aaron Brooks. Okay, Joseph Young was the last Oregon player to really get any significant playing time in the NBA since Aaron Brooks got drafted by the Rockets in 2007. Okay, so for that guy to actually have talent, he succeeded without talent. Okay, that Sweet 16 team, our leading scorer was a freshman named Damian Dotson who averaged like 12 points a game. Okay, so for him to actually have talent, that's what makes Oregon so dangerous. Okay, so guys, I'm super pumped about March Madness. I'm super pumped. It's going to be a great 3 weeks. Now, people in Oregon, after March Madness is done, they're probably going to shift their focus to college baseball, Oregon and Oregon State baseball, which have both squads have made remarkable runs over the last, mainly Oregon State, but Oregon since its existence, these two teams have been fairly neck and neck over the last 5 years. And college baseball in Oregon has really, thanks to Oregon State, it's really been better for fans. Okay, there's much more interest in it. So, and it's really unbelievable. It's really unbelievable because you look at the Pac-12. Besides Oregon, Oregon State, and Washington State, all the other teams in the Pac-12 play Pac-12 baseball play basically year-round, except for I should have added Utah to that list as well. But realize Washington State, Utah, they're not very good at baseball. But the California schools and the Arizona schools, they get to play baseball year-round. So for Oregon and Oregon State to be competing on the national level and to be competing to go into College World Series, it really is amazing. George Horton and Pat Casey have just done incredible jobs with that program. But I really have to give props to Pat Casey, okay, for several reasons. He's obviously, everyone who follows college baseball realizes that he's a great coach, okay? What people don't realize is what it took for Oregon State baseball to get to that, okay? If you walk around a place like Gill Coliseum and you see Oregon State Hall of Famers in different sports, there will be pictures of baseball players from the 90s. It looks like they're playing at Busch Park or just like a city park. It is not a nice facility. Okay, Pat Casey had bake sales, to raise money for his program. Okay. And honestly, Pat Casey is the reason Oregon even has a baseball program. Because when Phil Knight saw Oregon State having all this success, he was like, okay, we need to have a baseball program too. I'm going to throw a bunch of money at it, build a nice stadium, and go hire the best coach in the country with George Horton. So, props to Pat Casey, props to Oregon baseball in general, but I do have one criticism of Oregon baseball. So Oregon has been a program since 2009, and unlike Oregon State, we've had all the advantages. We had a beautiful stadium, all paid for. We have the best facilities, all of it. And what's great is, we've competed on a national level basically since our existence. Our first year was a little bit rough, but after that, we went to the NCAA tournament our second year in existence after a 30-year hiatus. My main problem with Oregon baseball is there's no growth, okay? If you watch Oregon baseball, or if you've watched Oregon baseball over the last 7 years, it's always the same story. We have great starting pitching. We have a solid bullpen. We bat 200. And it is, as an Oregon fan, it is so frustrating. It is so frustrating, okay? I'm a former baseball coach. I was the head baseball coach at my old high school. And my style, look, I respect the small ball style, moving guys over. I would do that with my team. But the amount of outs we give up is really incredible. And it's lost us games, okay? So you look at the 2016 Oregon Ducks, okay? Our 3 starting pitchers, who are all left-handers, will probably go in the first 3 rounds of the draft. I mean, they're that good. But Our lineup, oh, and our closer, Matt Nogozic, one of the best in the country, okay? Our lineup can't hit at all, okay? Our team batting average is 206. We just got swept by Mississippi State last weekend. And props to Mississippi State. You know, SEC is a great baseball conference, but it's always the same thing. There's no growth, okay? So when we go to the NCAA tournament, we'll lose games 3-1 because we just cannot manufacture or produce runs. Now, should we fire George Horton? Hell no. Hell no. Okay? Any Oregon fan who says that is absolutely crazy. Okay? Realize consistency in a program is very important. But just as a passionate Oregon fan, I would really like to see George change up the style of play a little bit. Go recruit better hitters. You know, because the way he coaches, he focuses on pitching and defense, and we're some of the best in the country in that. But it's the same problem every year. We can't hit. Okay. So as an Oregon fan, you know, with one of the best coaches in the country, with all the advantages that we have, I feel like we need to be on track to have a chance to go to Omaha every year. Okay? That's a reasonable expectation. And so just something I would like to see is maybe change the style of play up a little bit. Okay? Don't give up so many outs, and let guys swing away. Okay, it's very frustrating if you want to move guys over with your 6, 7, and 8 hitters, that's totally fine. If we're bunting with a runner on first and no one out with our 3 hitter or our 4 hitter, I have a problem with that. Okay, I have a problem with that. And honestly, if I am a big time recruit and if I'm hitting 20 home runs a year for my high school team and I see Oregon playing that style of play, I don't want to go play there. Okay, I don't want to bunt guys over as a cleanup hitter. So that's just my thought on George Horton. Lastly, Oregon State baseball. I know they lost a game to San Francisco this last weekend. Not a great baseball team, but realize Oregon State was in the tournament last year, and they returned everyone. Realized 2 years before, they were the best team in the country. They had 3 great starting pitchers. They had the Pac-12 Player of the Year in Michael Conforto. And then they got upset in the regional by UC Irvine, who ended up making a great Omaha run. Okay? But OSU lost almost that whole team, and they still went to the tournament last year, was in the regional, and then they returned everyone from that team. So, like it is every year, watch out for Oregon State, not only to go to Omaha, but actually make a run at a College World Series title, which would be their first title since 2007. Hey, thanks for taking the time out, and yeah,